Information Officer. We publicly noticed this meeting to allow members of the City Council to attend, and I can see that joining us today are Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft and Councilmember Jim Odie, and others might join as well. We're also recording this meeting and we'll post it on the city's website. Today, I'm going to give a quick update from the city's Emergency Operations Center. Then Eric Fonstein is going to give a quick update regarding economic development. And Kathy Weber, Executive Director of DABA, is going to give and share remarks and moderate a Q&A with you all. So here at the city's Emergency Operations Center, we remain activated for the COVID-19 pandemic. Yesterday, Bay Area counties, including Alameda County, posted a press release saying that the shelter-in-place order was going to be extended through May, and that the county would post more details later this week on what loosenings of the order would go along with that extension. We expect to hear details tomorrow, and we'll post as soon as we know more. Today, the governor talked about a roadmap for reopening the economy. He referenced 4 stages and said that we are currently in stage 1, staying at home, or being part of the essential workforce. He said that we're weeks away, not months, from being able to move to stage 2 if trends remain the same. Stage 2 openings include lower risk workplaces. So for example, curbside retail, non-essential manufacturing, and offices when telework is not possible. He also talked about schools in phase 2 and the idea of opening up in late July or early August to help make up the gap in learning. The governor said we're months away from moving to stage 3, which includes higher risk workplaces like personal care, and then months away from stage 4, which is the end of the stay-at-home order when we have therapeutics in place. A couple more things. This Thursday, we're launching Slow Streets Alameda, which builds on the efforts happening across the Bay Area and all over the country where streets are being temporarily closed to through traffic so that there's more room for physical activity with physical distancing. We're going to start in Alameda with Pacific from Grand to Oak and Versailles from Burnside to Central. And as you know, masks are required when in public when you cannot maintain at least 6 feet of physical distance. The police department is working to educate people about the new requirements, though they did make their first arrest last week. But it is important to know that just because people are outside without a mask, that they are not necessarily violating the order. If you go to the beach with members of your household and do not get within 6 feet of another person at any time, that's permitted. But because it's hard to ensure that you won't come into contact with another person, it's a good idea to always wear a mask when in public. One last note, we'll continue to fill the 17 hand sanitizer stations across the island when supply is available. And good news, we're happy to report that stations will be refilled this week. Thank you all so much for being here. You're very much not alone, and we're all here for you if you need anything. Eric?
Thank you very much, Sarah. I would first like to mention we also have Lois Butler and Amanda Gerke, also from the city's Economic Development Department, joining and helping to answer any questions. Last Tuesday, the City Council meeting on April 21st passed a variety of measures aimed to help local businesses. This includes temporary zoning changes to extend hours of operation, also allowed for temporary advertising signs, and also to make it easier to sell food and other essential goods. Also at that meeting, the council deferred business license and business improvement area fees for 60 days. So the deadline has moved from July 1st to September 1st. The council also deferred payments of transient occupancy taxes for hotels for 60 days for the months of March, April, and May. And then finally, the council approved a business relief grant program, and please check the city's website for more information and the application. We're accepting applications for grants of up to $7,500. The applications are due Thursday, May 7th at 11:59 p.m., 1 minute before midnight. And awards will be announced on Thursday, May 21st. To be eligible for the program, you must have between 1 and 25 full-time equivalent employees, unless you're a restaurant, have a physical established business here in Alameda, be able to show a significant loss of 20% or more of income due to the coronavirus. You must be current on your business license fee, and if you're located in a business improvement area, you must be current on your BIA fees as well. And then related to the grant program, would like to mention that tomorrow there's a webinar, Wednesday, April 29th at 5 p.m. And you can see the city's website for the link and more information on the webinar. On the city's website, under the Help for Business tab, you can see that the Paycheck Protection Program, is the federal program, is back up accepting applications. We also have links for technical assistance to help businesses complete the applications. We're working closely with SCORE, which is an advisory group, and the Small Business Development Center. So you can see links for those assistance programs as well. Then under, just want to mention, under the Help for Workers tab, there's a new state pandemic unemployment assistance program for business owners, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, and people otherwise not eligible for regular unemployment insurance. So see the tab under Help for Workers. And then finally, at the April 21st City Council meeting, the City Council directed staff to develop a special public-private community fund to enable local residents and private entities to contribute to local assistance programs. And we'll be going back to the City Council on May 19th with more information about that program. So now I'd like to turn it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Eric. It is wonderful to see everybody gathered here. I'd like to welcome folks from our other partner business organizations, from WABA and from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for being here. A couple of housekeeping notes, please. If you have questions, just type them into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. And we want to be respectful of everybody's time, so get to as many as we can. We have a 3 o'clock time for conclusion, so hopefully we can address everybody's questions at that time. I would like to start off with a special announcement. We received a request from one of the teachers at Encinal High School, Kevin Gorham, who is leading an initiative to honor high school seniors who are unable to participate in graduation festivities and ceremonies. And he wants to show that the community is there to support them. And so he is asking to do a senior sign day on Friday, March 1st, and encouraging businesses and residents. May 1st, yes, thank you.
This Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah.
May 1st, and he's encouraging businesses and residents to decorate their windows with congratulatory messages. So best wishes to the class of 2020. And I can start with a question that we have regarding the city grant program. And it is, can you share what criteria will be used to award the grants?
So this is Lois Butler with Economic Development, and you would need to have at least a 20% loss. And so that's one of the main criteria. You have to complete the application in full, so that we can see that your loss is what it is. So please upload all the documents that are required. If you don't, then you automatically will be disqualified.
There's another question. Is there a Facebook group or equivalent for both small business members and for city government? Not a page, but a group for discussion and questions available.
So I'm going to just jump in and say, not that I'm aware of, and that we would also need to abide by the Brown Act in any discussions that involved city council members and issues that might come before the city council. But that said, the city council, and I know at least 2 of my members are here present, we always want to know your concerns. We get emails, phone calls from you frequently. So reach out to us that way, certainly. As far as the Facebook group for small business owners among themselves, I mean, I have no say in that. It's always good to communicate, but it's just that when you're communicating with city council members, we do have the Brown Act to abide by.
And also following up on the city grant question, how will the grants be scored? Specifically, what criteria will be used to select which businesses will be selected? There are more than 80 applicants that are qualified.
If more than 80 qualifies, all those that qualify will have a chance to get the grant through a lottery system.
Let's see, can you give us more information on the temporary advertising signs?
Eric?
I'm not sure if maybe they can just clarify the question in the comments. If that's the temporary mask requirement signs, or we're not sure. I don't think what temporary signs
Also,
they're referring to.
Eric is muted.
Oh.
I think those are the A-frame signs.
It allows A-frames and banners to allow business opportunity to notify about extended hours, additional food sales, or availability of essential goods. So you could post those on the streets, on the sidewalks. However, you must notify the planning building department if you do plan to do this. Just send an email, and we could give you the email address through business associations. But it just makes it a little bit easier to let people know that the goods and services that you're offering.
And Eric, would that provision still have to abide by our A-frame requirement of 3 feet from the building facade, or?
Right, for accessibility requirements.
Right, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another. Last week, I attended a town hall meeting and was recommended to give my feedback up to the Congress, etc. I think the question is that still a recommended process?
So I had a town hall. I'm not sure it was my town hall. Barbara Lee, our congresswoman, was supposed to be my guest last week, but she had to go to Washington, D.C. to vote on the last stimulus bill and was on a plane instead. But if you have questions, and Barbara Lee does have in her office an individual who deals exclusively with small business issues, SBA issues. And so that is, and as we speak, I am going to look up that information and send it to Sarah, who can make that available. But if, certainly if a small business owner, business person has a question, our Congresswoman is a wonderful resource, as are our state senator Nancy Skinner and our assembly member Rob Bonta, but simply because right now the Congress is dealing with more assistance. They did just get more money for the PPP last week. But as I said, I'm going to, while we're talking, while this meeting's going on, I'm going to look up the information and send it to Sarah Henry, who can disperse it.
There is a downtown Alameda has a private Facebook group, and we can share that information. We'll send a link here in the chat box so folks can secure that from there. And if any of our other business community members have something like that, feel free to go ahead and share that as well in the chat box, and we can make sure to get that information to everybody. We have no current questions in the chat box. So I'm just wondering if there's any other comments that any of our city officials would like to have an opportunity to share.
I'll start. I do want to thank all of our businesses. You are our lifeblood, and my heart sank when I heard that the shelter in place was extended another 30 days. At the same time, I wasn't entirely surprised, because although we've done a great job in the Bay Area, in Alameda County, I think our city is doing a very good job of flattening the curve. We still do see the number of cases and the number of deaths countywide increase. And so for that reason, it's the public health officers we're looking to tell us when and the governor that's where he's getting his direction, to tell us when we can loosen up and start going back to the things we used to do more. But in the meantime, the city wants to work with you to do everything we can to promote your businesses, to get people, shopping, ordering from you, picking up online. I mean, ordering online, picking up at the curb. And certainly the restaurants, I think that's going reasonably well, because people still have to eat and we get tired of our cooking. I mean, that said, there are people who are out of work, and they're watching their counting their pennies, but unemployment checks should be coming. I think the stimulus checks, well, maybe not the paper checks, but at least if you file your income tax online, you should have gotten I think the first disbursements went out. But we will continue to do what we can as a city to promote your businesses, to keep you in business. I was gratified that my council very enthusiastically supported the idea of a community foundation that I brought up, and it's something that other cities have done. I've already had some interest from donors, and so that should provide another source of some assistance. But anyway, I just commend you for your perseverance. This is not easy. As I was out at Alameda Point Collaborative, and Alameda Point as a collaborative, and then I went last Friday and went down to see the volunteers at the food bank, and stopped in to say hello to the director, and Cindy Houts, who's doing a phenomenal job. And I said, "How are you doing, Cindy? How are you holding up?" And she said, "Well, every day is different. Every day is a challenge. It's my first pandemic, and everyone hopes it'll be the last, but we are all just learning as we go. Every city is struggling to. Last night, I had a Zoom meeting of the executive board of the East Bay Division of the League of California Cities, and we were looking at some pretty grim projections about what city finances are going to look like. And that's why it pains me, as much as I would like to extend more money and more grants to our businesses, but I think we'll be able to expand that pool a bit with the community foundation. We're still a city that has to operate, that needs to function, that is also struggling to retain its workforce and to carry out all the things that a city has to do. So hopefully, I know, and by the way, this week, Congresswoman Lee is supposed to be my guest again, and I know she'll tell you that Congress is fighting really hard to get money into this next relief package for cities less than 500,000, because right now that's all that Congress, I mean, it's not all that Congress has done. They've spent trillions of dollars, but as far as assistance to cities that are shelling out money and doing lots of emergency expenditures while seeing our revenues decline, we didn't get any relief from the federal packages so far. And cities of 500,000, I mean, in the entire Bay Area, there are two. That's San Francisco and San Jose. So we need more help from the federal government, and when we have more, we're able to do more. But in the meantime, thank you for working together and for all your creative ways. And I can't say enough about our community development, economic development staff. You all there on screen are just doing a wonderful job with the webinars, communicating with our businesses. Reach out to them, and there is the link, as was mentioned, on the city's website. By the way, we also have our assistant city manager, Jerry Bowden, there. Hi, Jerry. And we're here to serve you. So thank you, everyone, and we're going to get through this together.
And we've got a couple more questions. Somebody's trying to work things out with their landlord. Do you have any other advice aside from letting them know what the city is doing with their tenants, or is there relief for landlords that they could reference in their negotiations?
Okay, so trying to work things out with landlords. So this is a commercial business. Well, it's always good to start by talking to your landlord and seeing what you can work out. Right now, you cannot be evicted for non-payment of rent due to COVID-related reasons. And then, let's see, and then you have, and that lasts as long as the emergency declaration is in place, plus 30 days. And then you have, Jim, Malia, or city staff, remind me, the extension in which to pay your rent, that's for both residential and commercial tenants?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
the 6 months,
yes.
right?
So
Yeah.
6 months from the time, it's really 7 months from the time the emergency declaration is ended. You have time to, that's the time you're given to incrementally pay back your rent. So I guess I could use a little more specificity. What city's doing with their tenants. And is there relief for them that I can reference in our negotiations? So community development is probably even better. This is, I think, from Kristen De Los Santos. And I think community development people back me up or tell me I'm wrong. A landlord would qualify as a small business to apply for an SBA loan. Is that correct? Or grant? Lois, why don't you jump in on this one?
I'm not sure about that one. Can one of you answer that one? No? I could get back to them. I could get back to the person if that person puts their email address on this.
Okay. And Sarah might be able to connect you if you have, do you have everyone, because they logged in?
Well, I can connect you with that.
You can, Kathy can connect, yeah. And then aside from letting them know what the city is doing with their tenants, well, with our tenants, we've also given them 3 months of rent deferment. Yeah, and feel free to email directly to me for more information. Then I see Ron FED. Remind me what FED is, Ron Mooney? Federal Employment Development? No. has to be unmuted.
The Federal Reserve.
Federal government? Federal government.
Federal Reserve.
Oh, the Fed, now they're going to expand the assistance to cities. Oh, did they? It's been a, maybe that was the reason. It's been a pretty.
There was an announcement today. There was an announcement today. I haven't seen the number either.
Okay. Well, that's would be great to know. The National League of Cities and others have been lobbying hard on that, and we kept getting turned down. So that would be great. We'll stay tuned. Thanks.
And then another follow-up question about the city's grant program. If they submit numbers that we later need to adjust, will they be able to do so?
I will check on that by tomorrow's webinar. I believe so. You have to put in you have to enter a login, And I believe you can log back in and update your numbers. I need to verify that.
And then we have another, can we look at a way to create a pathway to curbside along the way to the full opening, i.e. some way of making sure that we and our employees are tested to be safe in contact with things that are going to be out to the public. That should consist of us getting access to the next wave of tests and things like thermometers.
So a couple things. As far as testing to be safe to be in contact with the public, I think that might be referring to testing to see if you've had COVID. But what I've been hearing, and I listen religiously to NPR every morning, is that tests that even if they showed that you had COVID doesn't necessarily mean you won't get it again. Things like thermometers. I mean, the governor did talk a couple weeks ago at a press conference that when restaurants and other businesses reopen, they might do things like taking your temperature before you're allowed to come in. I mean, companies that are operational now are doing that. And right now, if you are working in an essential field, whether you're a medical worker, first responder, or an essential worker in a public-facing position like a grocery store worker or a food bank volunteer, you can be tested, you can receive free testing at one of 2 downtown Oakland sites. And but you have to register, and you will get an appointment, and they are following the CDC guidelines. So you're showing symptoms or you have been exposed to someone who has tested positive for COVID, but you don't need a doctor's referral. You go to, there's an email address, and Sarah Henry, who's a great person to have on your staff. Sarah, that was in the article, not my current article, but from the week before, if you could perhaps make that information available to this group, which might help any of you who do have some public facing workers. And so, but testing is going to be key. I mean, the governor talks about this. We need more testing. He's getting us more test kits. Then we need contact tracers to, go out and talk to all these people, or to contact folks who have been exposed to people who tested positive. So these are all things that that are going to need to be addressed. But on the testing, I think we need to wait a little. I will say the science is getting better every day, but right now there's some limitations of the test to tell you you're safe to be out there and not get COVID again.
I will go ahead. I'll find that information, Mayor, and I'll post it into the comments here. I just wanted to add one thing on the governor's press conference today. He talked about after the press conference was over, he was going to head right into a meeting with the retail sector. And that in that meeting with the retail sector, they were going to develop the guidelines for phase 2, which was that kind of curbside soft reopening of retail businesses. So it definitely sounds like that those guidelines and that guidance is going to be coming from the state, and it's going to be coming pretty soon.
Excellent.
And Councilmember Vella, would you like to share anything with our gathering?
I just want to remind people that today is the first day that independent contractors and self-employed can apply for the unemployment insurance. Yeah. And there have been some issues with the website, but I just want to let people know to keep trying. One of the things that may help is if you've applied in the past or you started an application, you may need to clear out the cookies on your web browser, and then try to restart an application or start a new application using a different login. That seems to be the fix right now. There's a little bit of a website glitch where it'll revert you back to the original pre April 28th application, which doesn't have the box for independent contractor or self-employed. If you have any issues, please try those fixes online first before you try calling in, because you could end up waiting for a long time on the phones. It's much easier to get through online. You can also email both Senator Skinner's office as well as Assemblymember Bonta's office. They have constituent caseworkers who can help you work things through and talk to EDD on your behalf. They do have a couple day delay time, but just make sure that you follow up with their office if you can't get through on the phones. So I just wanted to add that. The other thing that would be helpful to know is if people, I know we've gotten an update before in terms of who was applying for the payroll protection program and who actually got through on that and were granted loans. If there's an update in terms of where folks stand with that, if their applications are going through or if they're being denied. I heard there was a little bit of an issue with folks who were banking with Citibank because the Alameda location is closed, so people were having to go to the branch in Oakland, and then once you got there, there were issues because they were basically sending you to the SBA website, and it was like very circular. So I think any sort of update from the business community in terms of your ability to actually access the resources that are being provided by the federal government would be super helpful. And to find out, you know, where things stand with the second round of PPP.
So we have a question about guidelines for restaurants being open for to-go right now. Is there a place where they can access that information, you know, like plexiglass or signage, etc.?
Oh, good question.
I think the CDC has those regulations. I've seen them. I'll find them, and if I don't find them in time to post them here, I'll send them to you, Kathy, but I've definitely seen that documented.
Okay. And then we have another question about somebody looking for guidance as to unemployment. As a small business owner, how do you apply for unemployment if you've just taken cash as a draw when needed? Is there any guidance you can provide?
So I didn't hear the last part of that. If something about cash.
Yeah, so if somebody is a small business owner and they are, I believe they probably haven't taken a paycheck, but they're just taking a cash draw as necessary. How do you go about processing unemployment as a small business owner?
Okay, if I were them, I would do two things. I would apply for the small business PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program, and then and ask their bank to help them with that. And then the second thing I would do is go ahead and put in all the information that the person has for unemployment now. And I believe there's a comment section. In the comment section, let them know you have just taken a small amount of money.
And then there's also been posted information about unemployment funds for sole proprietors, etc. And that's in the chat box as well.
Right. This is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, or PUA, that began accepting online applications today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's the link.
And I would recommend that you try to apply for that as soon as possible. They will they will retro pay you for previous weeks. But there is a series of questions you'll have to answer and some information you'll have to provide, but specific to that scenario.
And by the way, if you go to labor.ca.gov, there is a great kind of list of a quick summary, how do I know if I'm eligible, and just a number of other paragraphs of information for you. So labor.ca.gov.
Then we have a question. I believe that my business will be lumped with phase 3 in the plan laid out by the governor. I've made updates to my facility to allow physical separation and have taken other measures above and beyond to ensure my clients will have less contact with others in my facility than they would at any retail shop or restaurant. Whom can I contact to advocate for getting facilities like mine to phase 2? And this is from Jim.
I could just add that one of the other things that I heard today during the press conference was that, well, two things. One, that there are people that are advising on all of these things. And so they said we welcome feedback from businesses on what it would take to reopen in a safe way. So we can figure out what the contact information is to provide that that feedback, because that's important. And then the second thing that we heard today is that the local regions are going to be responsible as well as the state. So the local, the county public health department is also going to play a role. And so that's another place where you can reach out to. But the governor was very specific to say that there was a team working and that they were taking feedback from businesses. And so we'll get you that email address to contact.
And we have another question, because there are a number of restaurant businesses on the call or on the line. Can you, is it better for for folks to order directly and pick up our food versus ordering through Grubhub or any of those online services? So if our restaurants can pop in with their recommendations, or if you have a...
Well, I was going to answer the question with a question. I would like to know from the businesses themselves. I would imagine that they must pay some fee, but I don't know, to Grubhub or whatever. I've honestly never used one of those sites. I just go directly to the restaurant, either the website or call. But if there's a restaurant or two on this chat that could tell us, because you really want to make sure that the majority of the money is going into our local businesses. I mean, that's certainly my top priority. So if you're able, and I will say that the Chamber of Commerce, and actually it was an Alameda High School student put together this great website, Alameda Eats, I think it is, and it's really comprehensive and it's easy to use. And so you can just, choose. There's so many restaurants to choose from, but I would defer to a restaurant to tell me how does that work when Grubhub or one of these others is the order goes through them.
So I see John with
yes, the Park Street Tavern.
Mm-hmm.
John, what can you tell us, John?
It is much better if you order and pick it up, because obviously we have to pay 20% to
20%,
20-25% sometimes.
Ooh.
Pick it up is much better because obviously we save the 20%.
Thank you for that input. And so my husband and I, not only do we order directly from the restaurant, we then walk over to get it. And it's just our walk to get out of the house and get some exercise. And by the way, when you pick up your meal, tip generously, because there's workers in the kitchen and people putting this together. But 20%, wow, that's steep. So you take that 20% and you put it on the tip for the restaurant. But that's good to know. I see a question from Ron Mooney about a testing site in Alameda. And I will say, I'm working on it as we speak. I've been working on it since yesterday, and but I don't want to get too far out ahead of myself because we're working on it. Because I would love to have a testing site in Alameda that operated along the same lines, the same criteria as the Oakland site. So you would need an appointment, but it would be, starting out for our medical workers, first responders, public facing essential workers. And so yes, I'm working on it. So hopefully I'll have more information soon.
And then I'd also like to give Council Member Odie
Yes.
an
yes, sir.
opportunity to share any insights or feedback with our group.
Sure, a couple quick things. And if you hear a saw in the background, my neighbor has a permit for non-essential construction, so you may hear that in the background. There it is. So I appreciate everyone coming on these and listening to these, and it's also good information for us as council members to hear what you guys are thinking about on the ground. One thing that did come out last week, and Leah and I talked about it on our town hall with Assemblymember Bonta, was the governor is doing a state program where restaurants can provide meals to seniors and the state would pay. So if you need more information on that, I think we could either help, or either Senator Skinner's office or Assemblymember Bonta's office can help connect you with that program. Also, we had a guest on about how to access money from the state. So we have that, I think we have that on our website, right? So we have that town hall if you wanted to go look at that, and you can hear his presentation. Our council also gave some polite prodding within our Brown Act to talk about a recovery plan. And I know from our economic development team, they're working on that too. So that'll be one of the things we work on in the month of May. In addition to the health recovery plan, we have to have some type of economic one. So I imagine from what Debbie Potter has told me that a lot of folks on this call will have a lot of input in what that looks like. So stay tuned for that. I think that was really all I had, right? Oh, and then if you were locked out of the IRS, I know they did some big software update over the weekend, so you might be able to get in there. And my understanding is if you get your bank information in by Tuesday, which is today, then you'll be in the next run by Saturday, and then your check will come a lot, or your direct deposit will come a lot sooner. So if you or any of your employees struggled getting an error message, they're fixing that as well. So.
And Jim, you just reminded me of something when you talked about the IRS and banking information. And I have a son who works in internet security and cybersecurity for the federal government back in DC, and he's been really busy these days because there are so many scams out there trying to come between you and your money. It's just amazing how it doesn't take some folks very long to capitalize on a crisis. So be scrupulously careful when you're getting emails. Never will you be asked to give your bank account information, your social security number, other personal identifications on an unsolicited email. So you want to be really careful. I think we all know not to open attachments, but these days some of these scam emails are so authentic that you just might think, oh yeah, this is something I need to see, and let some malware into your computer, into your system. So that's the last thing you need. So be careful, be suspicious, and there should always be a way to check back on something that you're doing online.
Yeah, and on that, I know our city attorney was concerned about that, so they wrote a piece for both the Journal and the Sun, so you can check that out.
Yeah, I do want to give high marks to our city attorney's office. They have been doing these weekly and very well read and entertaining to read stories with little, hypotheticals about the kinds of things you want to watch out for. So your city is watching out for you, but do be vigilant about these potential scams right now. And always, but especially now.
So Kathy, I just wanted to add in, I posted on the chat, I hope that folks can see it, a link to that. Instead of just giving an email for feedback, the state has developed a whole survey on how you can give feedback sector by sector. So if you had, feedback on bars or on fitness facilities and gyms, you can provide specific feedback on those sectors and it'll go to those task forces. So that link is in the chat.
Great, thank you very much. So I don't see any additional questions. Are there any closing and final remarks as we wrap up our Tuesday at 2?
Okay, and Sarah, texted you over the information from Congresswoman Lee's office.
Oh, okay.
And
sorry.
this is just the individual in her office who specializes in working with small businesses and SBA.
Okay, I'm going to add to the
issues.
chat here then for folks.
And someone says these chats disappear when the town hall is over. So is there a way? I don't know. Is there some way to send some of these links and things like this?
Yeah, IOL and the economic development team will collect all of the highlights from this, and we'll include it in future economic development newsletters, that kind of thing.
That sounds great. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Kathy, thank you for hosting, and all the rest of you. Stay in touch.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Good to see you all. Take care. Stay safe. Wear your masks.